you all.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the special meeting of the Englewood Cliffs Mayor and Council. Today is June 26, 2018. It's 6:40 p.m., and I call the meeting to order. Have a roll call, please?
Mayor Kranjak,
Here.
Councilperson Zaversa, E. Park. Councilwoman Park is participating via phone. O. Here. McMorro. M. Park.
Here.
Wu.
Here.
Borough Attorney.
Present.
CFO.
Here.
Auditor.
Here.
Borough Admin.
Here.
And Municipal Clerk. We're all present, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's begin this meeting as we begin all our meetings with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Point of order, Mayor. If everybody can remain standing, please, for a moment of silence. Mrs. O'Shea, just before the meeting, notified me that Andy Sincata passed away. So, if we can have a moment of silence for his family. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, would you please read into the record the Open Public Meetings Act?
Adequate notice of this meeting was given to the press and posted as required. Date and time of this meeting was legally given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act. This notice is on file with the municipal clerk and posted on the bulletin board. Minutes of this meeting will be made available to the public upon the completion of typing and proofreading by the municipal clerk.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to open the meeting to the public?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If there's anyone from the public who wishes to be heard, please raise your hand, wait for me to acknowledge you. Come up to the table here with the microphone, state your name and address.
Anything on the budget? This is not for the budget.
And this is not for the budget, there'll be a separate, public session for that. Okay, seeing and hearing no one, can I have a motion to close the public portion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to go out of order on the agenda because we have our professionals here, and it's a busy time of year for them. So we're going to try to move the meeting along and put the budget first. So, first up is the adoption of the 2018 municipal budget. The public hearing, Resolution 18-144, amendment to introduce the 2018 municipal budget. Have a motion to open this to the public.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So same instructions, if there's anyone from the public who wishes to be heard, please raise your hand. And we'll together?
Which one? Is there open and close?
Okay.
Open, close.
Yes.
Karen Geiger, 270 Alfred Street. A few questions. There's a line that you've added to the budget that never appeared before for contingency. Can you please explain why money is budgeted as contingency and not allocated where it might be?
Chris or Paul, would you want to take that one? Or actually Jamie as well?
Sure. The contingency line in general is the line that's allowed by statute for unforeseen items. So it's not necessarily for anything that currently is in our budget, so it wouldn't be allocated there. The contingency can be is an item that you can't transfer in and out, but you can charge items against it if they were unforeseen at the time the budget was adopted. So it's not something that you would reallocate to another line. It's something that doesn't currently exist in the budget.
So police overtime, if it exceeds the 175, could not be charged to that because that's budgeted?
It's so if events occur that are unforeseen at the time the budget's adopted that cause overtime to exceed our budgeted amount, then we would be able to charge it there.
So basically, it's a line that can be used to charge expenses to, other than salaries, basically, which are,
It could be used for anything
For anything.
that wasn't foreseen
That
when the
wasn't-
budget was adopted.
okay. And so could legal fees or settlements or anything. Okay.
Right.
The police overtime is budgeted at 175, as I recall. Can you tell me what the current police overtime is as of now, or as of last month, both paid out and earned?
I don't have the...
Does anybody know?
You can put an Oprah in for that.
I'm asking that because you have an amount in the budget. I don't want to put an Oprah in for that. I want the answer.
Ms. Geiger, I think that's a very fair question. I mean, I'm not going to be held to the number, but I think we're somewhere around the line of, Jamie, we spoke about that.
I think it's around 150 right now in that area there.
And just for clarity
which month?
purposes, just for clarity
Just the
purposes,
last report that I got, probably around 2 weeks ago.
we were under the impression that the contingency line could be used for
right.
both legal and overtime, and I thought it was a great idea when the CFO came up with that idea. And it is unforeseen, so it would be,
Or it covers under budgeting, either way.
well,
Well, that's
No,
not
it's
true.
not under
Let me,
budgeted at
if I
all,
may.
no.
The contingency in the budget is like Chris said, that you have those in the budget for the unforeseen situations, and those happen a lot in municipalities, things that you don't foresee, going forward. And that's why contingencies are put in that way.
I'm not going to debate it. It's just interesting to me that we are now not even on to July 4th, we're not even in July, which means that we're not even 6 months into the year at this point. You have spent $150,000 on police overtime, and you're budgeting $25,000 for the balance of the year. It's just curious as a comment.
Well, let me eliminate some of the curiosity here. Having observed the way the police department has been managed and run over the last 2.5 years, I sought the advice of Labor Council, and I was provided with what I thought should have been provided a lot sooner, which was a tool to promote better management, more efficient management. And that tool is an order from me, which I issued. I don't have the exact date, but it's been over the last 2 months, where overtime is only permitted in the following situations. 1, there's an emergency, national, state, county, local. 2, mandatory training where overtime cannot be avoided because we have to have more officers go out at the same time. And then there's a third one, which I'm very remiss to use, which is an exception, where if I'm asked to approve overtime under certain circumstances, I could, and I usually don't. So we've basically frozen overtime in this borough. And the chief and his senior officers have all the management tools and human resources available to avoid overtime. They just have to start using them in a manner that promotes non-overtime.
Okay, you've given your explanation. Has the council agreed with this freezing of overtime and this request to the mayor or the business official for any overtime that's not emergent?
Well, they voted on the budget as introduced, and it was introduced with all that in mind.
All right.
So it's already baked in there.
Well, okay, let's move on. One of the items in surplus is that the maximum amount of surplus that you can use to support a budget, I think this is addressed to Chris or the auditor, is the amount of cash surplus that's available, which I believe is about $1.8 million. Can you just tell me, because I haven't seen these lines in the financial statement before and they relate to the budget. There's a line for excess collections of taxes that never appeared before. Can you tell me how that cash amount factors into the surplus overall?
When you adopt the budget, you have an appropriation called reserve fund collecting taxes. And there's a statutory requirement on the percentage that you have to use. You have to make sure that you're collecting 100% of your tax revenue, because whether we collect it or not, it doesn't have to be paid. So they require you to put that appropriation in. So if the percentage comes in higher than the amount that we were required to put in excess, it'll be excess tax collections. So to use round numbers, if our collection rate was 99%, we would have to put 1% of our levies as reserve fund collecting taxes. If this year we collected 99.5%, we would have the extra 0.5% excess of tax collections.
And that appears on your financial balance sheet as an excess revenue.
Correct, excess tax
And
collections.
that has anyone checked that rather large, I believe it's $300 and something thousand, amount of money is not prepaid for taxes, which many residents, I'm sure, partook of when that option was given to them?
Well, that actually, it's certainly added to it, that they're completely separate numbers. So the prepaid taxes are a completely separate item on the balance sheet, and they are
those
counted separately.
And those don't factor into the surplus?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Okay.
But that, the rush to get the prepaid taxes in at the end of the year certainly helped our collection rate, because the people that maybe would have waited paid on time.
So, okay.
So it was cause and effect.
The planning board, you added $10,000 to the planning board line when you did the budget amendment. Can you please tell me what that specifically was for?
It was for litigation.
Okay? And you also have an increase of $10,000 on the engineers line from last year. What is that for?
Engineer.
Hold on a second.
Engineer.
Ms. Geiger, are you talking about the amendment,
No,
I'm
that's
sorry.
not, that's in the base budget. I'm flipping back and forth.
Okay, I'm sorry. So, for which category, like?
It was
Because I'm off
under
the draft.
engineering services, I believe. I don't know, I saw it was $10,000, $10,000 change. I'm sorry, I should have,
That's okay. Do we know what code engineering is?
as I go through the pages, I'll come back to the
Okay,
question.
that's fine.
Okay, that's probably easier. Okay, the legal, you have under other expenses, it's gone up now to $650. Those are obviously, I'm sorry, those are obviously the pay, but what the on other insurance premiums and litigation settlements, could you explain the $786?
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah, I
take
can-
Jamie? If not,
That's the excess liability, litigation, co-payments for the litigation that the borough's going through right now. I met with Chris prior to the amendments, and he said we were already over budget on that line item, so it wouldn't be prudent to send the budget down to Trenton that was already over budget, so we increased that line item by, I think it was $150,000.
What actually have you spent at this point?
At
At that time, it was $268,000.
157.
Yeah, something like
157.
No, it was 268 total, but we were over by 130, no, 178,000.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. Last year you had 510 on the line.
They also include our premiums for our insurance company as well.
Which has gone up.
Yes, the whole entire line item,
Yes.
but
So could you just give me the detail of how you came to the 786?
The premium for the joint insurance fund, we have insurance for our fire department, there's insurance for our recreation department, and we have another line for co-insurance and
Deductible.
deductibles
Correct,
for any.
For only the litigation
Yeah.
that's covered under the municipal excess liability fund,
Right.
only those.
But what is the co-insurance and deductible number this year? And what is are there any settlement numbers in here? I mean, I'm just trying to understand how you got to 786.
Well,
I'd like the breakdown. I mean, you've never given the public an audited financial statement that gives a breakdown, so I'm just trying to understand the derivation of it.
I don't have the exact dollar amount in front of me for the breakdown. I can send it to you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
yeah.
Chris, would that number include the legal expenses that we're incurring as a result of Ms. Geiger's litigation against the borough and the affordable housing litigation, or is that outside of that number?
That's,
It would only, if it's a settlement through the joint insurance fund, then it would include.
That would be a separate line, it wouldn't be in that
So
category.
the expense that the borough's incurring at the hands of Ms. Geiger are not included in that number?
no, they're not. They're under the planning board numbers.
Okay, thank you.
And it's not an expense by
Actually-
Mrs. Geiger,
actually, it wouldn't, just for clarification.
You could avoid all the
Yeah.
expenses if you didn't fight the appeal. But let's go on. No, you're being negative and inaccurate.
Okay, let's not do that.
Safety Commission, you started. Can you explain the increase of about 30,000, 32,000 in the amount that is shade tree other expenses, especially given that only 31,000 was spent last year? That's on page 14.
Ms. Geiger, this year, every 5 years, the Shade Tree has to do a forestry program. So this is, we're in that year, in the 5th year.
And that's a $50,000 program?
No, it's not a $50,000 program. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just bringing up some of the things that were extra in Shade Tree. There are some items that needed attending to. And Jamie, if you want to jump in more than that, I know that,
We have the grant we're applying for, plus,
right, but the actual forestry program.
yeah, we have the forestry program plan that we have to, of course, pay for as well. So that's in there as well.
You spent $31,000 in 2017. You're budgeting $82,000. That's a big increase.
A lot of money's, what I was told by, I don't know, I'm sorry, Chris, I don't remember if it was you or if it was
Yeah, I
the
wasn't
actual
here
Shade
for
Tree
this
Commissioner.
discussion.
But a lot of monies were used from grants last year, and this year they were trying to to rebuild the grants, not grants, I apologize, the trust.
Trust, right.
They were trying to rebuild the trusts, and that's where you're seeing that increase from. So I understand that. I understand it shows a great difference there, but that's where it's coming from.
On color, it's shown, the uniform, on the construction code official, you show a very large increase going from 12,000 to 45,000 for other expenses. What are those?
I know.
Are you in salaries and wages, or are you in other expenses? Other expenses?
Other, your salaries and wages are close. It's the 12,000 going to 45,000.
The last difference, which is almost $30,000, and this was just put in by the building department, is for elevator inspections. They were requesting a $30,000 increase for elevator inspections.
So we're spending $30,000 more,
Yes.
and what is... the-
Actually, like 20, looks like 25 almost more.
For clarification,
Yeah.
Historically, we netted out the revenue, and the revenue is actually also going to be $30,000 more.
So there's an off-
Actually, a net zero. We used to pay for the inspections out of the revenue we got, so it looked like we received less revenue than we were actually getting, because it netted out. So now we have two separate items.
So there's an offsetting revenue.
But here
So
you
that's
have
why
the
it shows
elevator
more there?
fees is 39,000. That's not a change.
If you go to sheet 4A, you'll see
For,
that
it's 39,000 for the
and it
elevator.
went from 9 to 39.
So that's not an increase in revenue. It's basically an offset, it's zero.
So it'll offset.
It's, yeah,
Right,
net,
okay.
net tax result is
It's a
zero.
zero. There's your 135 contingency, which is covered. In the planning board line, I can't find the engineer line. Sorry. The tax appeals, the excess collection. Oh, the police traffic revenues, you're showing that for the first time, the $70,000 revenue. Can you explain that, what that is?
It's the administrative portion of our outside duty fee. So when a vendor requires that the road be shut down or something where they need security detail, The borough's fee includes an administrative portion, and that's being anticipated.
That's the new ordinance we passed last year.
That amount of money, I mean, we've had an administrative fee that went with security detail for a long time,
Correct.
for many years. Where was that money before when it wasn't part of your
It was in
general
Myrna.
fund?
It was miscellaneous revenues, not anticipated. Myrna.
So you're just codifying it separately as opposed to, so you're now,
It's being anticipated versus not being anticipated. They can see
so
jobs straight to
the
surplus.
surplus that we would have seen in the past, because that money was Myrna and went into the surplus was unanticipated, isn't going to be there now, because it's hitting the revenue.
Yeah, but
Arguably, but you would have to use less surplus to offset that dollar amount, so it ends up washing.
Chris, wasn't it also done in an effort to help the police department's budget be more real? Because it was a fluctuating number, it was very hard for the budget, for that number to come in line. So the request had been, I remember a discussion of the request being made to take that out of the overall police budget and pull it separately so that it wouldn't fluctuate as much, because they were outside traffic details?
It was, at some point, it was going back into the budget
Right.
used to offset the cost of vehicle repairs.
The
that
vehicles,
were
remember, and the
at,
car repairs? Right,
At the
right,
different sites.
right,
But
yeah.
it's just being used in the right now.
On sheet 9, all of these revenues that we used to have, Clean Communities, Body Armor, DEA, DOT, I can just go read the list, you can read it as well, seem to be zeroed out. What happened to are these grants?
Yeah, these are
Revenue?
grants. You look at the ones that say Chapter 159, that means that they were received after the budget was adopted. So it's not that we're not getting them anymore, they'll probably come later in the year. I just didn't have award letters in front of me. You'll see throughout the year, as we receive these grants, there'll be resolutions to do a Chapter 159, which effectively amends the budget to include them, and that's again offset as, the same amount of revenue as that's the appropriations, so there's no tax impact there.
Okay, but why is it that in the past you budgeted for these items, and this year they're not budgeted, you're waiting for them to come in?
It's a matter of how soon you receive them.
So in the past, we've
If you-
received
if you-
them before the budget cycle? I mean, the budget cycle has always been much earlier.
Or they were received at the end of the prior year, and the Chapter 159 is not done, which means that they would have been unappropriated grants. So you're not supposed to be able to spend the money until it's appropriated. So even if I received something in December of this year, and the next meeting isn't until after the deadline for when I can file a Chapter 159 with the state, it would just carry on my balance sheet as an unappropriated grant, and then we would have to appropriate it in the next year's budget. So that's pretty common as well. All of these, with the exception of the DOT grant, which is in our capital, we're probably, and the Suez road improvements are going to be recurring. They're all regular grants.
That the DOT and the Suez are non-recurring?
The Suez is a one-time event. The DOT is generally recurring, and I believe we do have an award letter for that.
Yes.
It's included in our capital ordinance. Is that also on this agenda? So that's on this agenda as well.
This is definitely more of a timing difference than anything else.
Okay.
And it's an offset appropriation
It shows as
and
well.
revenue.
I'm trying to find the line, Carol, but...
I found the engineering, I found
Oh,
it.
you
It's on,
found it?
it's a
Okay.
different page what you have, so I can't reference it to you, I
Sorry,
apologize,
I just knew it was a $10,000.
but I can tell, yeah, because last year they went over 6,700, and I remember Catherine, this was before Jamie was here, it said, you know what, put an extra
But didn't
10,000.
they do special studies last year?
Again, that was Catherine's recommendation, to be responsible in being, having the right amount.
That may be, but given that, to my knowledge, there are no special studies coming up again this year, why are you carrying an increase there?
Like I said, that was, you asked for how that got there, and I went to my page, and I see that, I mean, if the council wants to take the 6,700 out. I think they can amend it on the spot. It's less than 10%, but that's up to them to make that decision.
And, another question, I just,
Yeah. It says it's a minimal amount.
okay, now the other, what is the amount of the tax increase associated with this budget?
I have the adopted budget with the amendment. It's pretty much a wash, right? On the local level, on the average home, I will clarify the amount in a minute, but on the average home, it's $543. That number is skewed tremendously by the vacant land increasing by more than 300% the value of the vacant land. So the true average home number is skewed by that because we use both the vacant land and the residential to come up with that. During our budget worksheets, we had this conversation with the governing body, and by the way, I'd like to thank them all for their input over the last 6 months. I know it's been a long journey. The original administrator, her input, Jamie's input as administrator now, and of course Chris. But we spent a lot of time trying to find out where this vacant land increase came from, how it affects us. Other municipalities have had similar cases where they appealed it to the county and to the state. It's just having to do with the way the county values property. And based upon sales of the most recent vacant properties.
I'm confused. If you look at the budget, I've done my own calculations, and I've come up with a number of about $340-something.
That's without the vacant.
Without the vacant.
Correct.
Right.
And that's,
Yeah, you're right.
do you have the user-friendly budget?
Paul, can you explain to Ms. Geiger that even if we had a 0%, no,
I know that.
there was 100 and, what was that number?
117.
Exactly.
Okay, but I just wanted to understand what this budget itself is doing.
Without that number.
As opposed to, and that's the number, it's about 340, is that correct?
That sounds right. I don't have the exact dollar number in front of me, sorry.
Do you have the user-friendly budget?
It's in there?
It's on the first page of the user-friendly budget.
And that translates to about $38 for every 100,000 on the average home? I think that's what you said in some of the budget workshops. I didn't know if that changed. It's 19 and 15, so I doubled it. That's 100.
User-friendly.
It's like, it's on the front page.
I've got it open, it's just, okay. It's,
There, I can check it.
it's $370.89 on the user-friendly budget.
She's asking her.
I'm sorry?
That's 370.89.
Yep.
Now, in doing this, as I recall, you took 200,000 out of capital surplus, which is basically all of our capital surplus. I think it was 216, and you removed everything. You took 200 to support the budget.
Correct.
Why is it that this year that's permissible and last year it wasn't?
It was permissible last year, it was
Just
400,000 last year?
Yeah.
I think it was 400,000.
Yeah, it was 400, and it was a concern to take another 200, and they were told they couldn't bring it down. Maybe I'm
I don't think that the state had any input on the capital fund balance last year.
But at this point, we're basically at a fund balance in capital 16. We're left with a use of 16,000, right?
It was a low number. I don't know the exact
If it
number.
was 216s, if it's not, I prefer to what the piece of paper says.
Right.
Why, are you using this money?
Don't need it in the capital fund. You can use it in the capital fund to fully fund an ordinance, but we don't need to do that right now. We have the capital improvement fund money to be able to authorize more debt than we actually need.
And more importantly, that's where it came from. I mean, it came from the public, it was raised for taxes from
I
people,
understand, but you-
and then it wasn't
but-
used, and then it was returned back
But
to
aren't
the
you-
public. So that's the concept of utilizing surplus,
I
right?
understand, but why is it that you're adding more money to the budget in capital now instead of using this? I'm just asking theoretically, the same in the end. Part of your budget amendment added $20,000, I believe, to the capital fund, right?
Correct.
And there's money that's in the budget for the capital fund. Why is,
It's a product of leverage. You need a 5% down payment to be able to authorize an ordinance.
right,
The fund balance number wouldn't get you the size of the appropriation that we would have needed to be able to support the ordinance. So for every $50,000 in capital improvement fund, you get $1 million, but for $50,000 in fund balance, you get $50,000. So
what is it, which brings me to my next question, what exactly is scheduled, in your view, to be built, maintained, done out of the capital budget this year?
I'm going to need to jump in here for a moment. Yeah, Ms. Beck, I need to say this in the most respectful way. We are in several litigations, and there are certain things that we just cannot talk about in that manner at this point.
The capital budget has to do with your litigation?
Yes, it does.
I can't, yeah.
But we're gonna shut that down right now. Anything else?
Respectfully.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you. And I actually want to thank Jamie, Paul, and Chris for doing a great job here on this budget. Speaking on behalf of the council, we know a lot of work went into this, and we appreciate what you've done under tough circumstances. Challenging. Maybe challenging is a better word. Nothing's too tough. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Ramon Ferro, 14 Framing Street. I just wanted to come up here and mention just one thing. I sat on this council in 1995 and in 2012. And this is the first time I've ever seen one member of the public allowed to talk for such a long time, asking questions regarding all the detail on the budget at the last minute. There have been a few months that this budget has been going through.
Yeah, it's a good comment. Ms. Geiger's been asking questions all along, and she seems to have endless amount of questions, and we're happy to answer them.
Yeah, but this is, like I say, this is the first time. Normally it has been 3 minutes or 5 minutes. And I've noticed this has gone for a while.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Okay.
Point well taken, yes. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Russell Carino, 220 Fairview Avenue. I hope that the budget as introduced can be adopted, and if there's any amendments that need to be made, they can be made here and now, if at all possible. We don't want to repeat what happened last year, hopefully. I think it's in the best interest of the borough to move this forward and to move on to the next important matters to face this borough. Sort of a public announcement, a new restaurant opened in town recently, for those that don't know about it. It's called Madang. It's 11 Sylvan Avenue, just off the corner of Irving Avenue on 9W. The owners were nice enough to host a ribbon-cutting ceremony and a sort of an open house, I guess you'd call it, party this past Monday, a week ago Monday, which some of the members of the planning board, governing body, the mayor, and several other people attended as well, to the architects, the owners, etc. And it was very nice. I wanted to just suggest to the members of the public, I went there with my wife for dinner one night last week, and it was quite good, actually. So it's important that we support the local businesses, especially the new ones, as they're getting their feet on the ground. I have an issue with it, with the announcement and how we were asked to attend this, and I'll be addressing this to Councilwoman O. Doesn't matter. It's a public meeting, and I think I can speak to anything I wish to. Is that correct, Mayor?
No, this is public hearing on the amendment to the budget.
Look, I'm going to let you speak to it, it's fine.
I can get up, if you're going to have a
We had that already.
Okay.
We had it.
Just very briefly, I'll get to the point. I found out, as the members found out, at Monday morning at about 10 o'clock in the morning, that there was an event planned, a ribbon-cutting ceremony later that afternoon. And many of us tried to juggle our schedules so that we could be there and attend what I think is an important event for the borough. And I found out through emails that were circulated that I think Councilwoman O was given the task by either the owners or a representative of the owners to notify the borough and the members of the board of this event. And I have a question for Councilwoman O. If you could just explain when you received a notice from the owners that they'd like the borough representatives to attend, and then, did you respond and notify everyone, and how did you do so?
Okay, first off, Mr. Perino, the name of the restaurant is Madang. I don't know the owner directly. I
Right.
know people that know the owners, and I was told that they were having a grand opening. I'm not in charge of announcing grand openings to the mayor and council, and that's not my task or responsibility. I have been invited to the grand opening, and I was under the impression that they were going to send out the invites to others as well. So,
Okay, well, I was under the impression, based upon an email that I received, that I guess it was the attorney for the owner had asked you to disseminate the information to others so we could
I
attend.
was never in charge of announcing grand openings, and there were other grand openings that this governing body was invited to, and I've never seen the invitations before, so I just don't understand why I am in charge of that task all of a
Well,
sudden.
we didn't put you in charge. You were asked by the attorney for the owners to tell us, and you didn't. Leave it at that.
Asked by the attorney.
And I'll leave it as, it's important, I think, that in situations like this, even if it's not a task, I get that. If you need to pass it on to someone else to take care of it, that's okay too, but it was an inconvenience to somewhere around 25 people who had to try to juggle their schedule for an event that one would think that was planned more than 5 hours in advance. So that's my only point. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak on Resolution 18-144? Can I have a motion to close this part of the public? Thank you. Can I have a motion to open public hearing on ordinance 18? We're going to vote on that? Yes. All right. Okay, so we'll have a vote on 18-144. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
That's the amendment.
Wait, the budget amendment hearing we have to have first before we
Isn't
vote.
that what we just did?
We just did that one.
We just did the public hearing on the budget.
That's
On the introduced budget.
Introduced
Right.
budget.
All right, so then 1811, open to the public, or do we go on to the...
On the amendment, on just the amendment.
That's what we opened
just-
up on the
That's
amendment.
fair enough then.
Yeah, we opened up on the
Okay.
amendment, we closed it, and now...
Then what about on the introduced budget?
We had our public hearing on the introduced budget already?
No, we had
You
the
have to do
public
that.
hearing on the amended budget.
Okay.
So we don't vote on the amendment?
First, you have to have another hearing on the introduced budget.
All right, so that's 1811, the exceed budget and established cap?
No.
Or you want to go to the next one? Okay, so,
No.
public hearing, resolution...
Hold on. Do you have a copy of the agenda in front of you, sir? Yeah. Or Jamie, would you show? See how it's worded on the agenda? We just did Resolution 18144, amendment to the introduced 2018 budget. Next, we have the cap bank. And third is the hearing on the adoption of the 2018 budget. Are we missing something?
No, it's just that,
that the correct order?
123,
Yeah.
the, hearing on the introduced budget should be before the amendment.
Okay, so now we...
I didn't see the, agenda, I apologize. I
Okay,
should've looked.
so-
All right, so I was just following the agenda, so we should go over to 18123 now?
Okay,
All right.
very good.
It's the same hearing, but the state
All
wants
right.
it twice, and we are under state review this year, so
Okay.
we should.
Okay, well, let's do a public hearing then on Resolution 18-123, adoption of the 2018 municipal budget. Could I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? If there's anyone from the public who wishes to speak on public hearing Resolution 18-123, adoption of the 2018 municipal budget, please raise your hand.
Only on the budget.
Anybody? Yes.
Mary O'Shea, 12 Irving Avenue, Englewood Cliffs. From the previous council meetings, there was multiple discussions about council members taking the committee for the budget, and there was reluctance on members on the left side of the podium here to do so. And I would just like to thank Councilwoman McMorro for leading the charge and helping prepare this budget with the borough administrators, the CFO, and the accountant, because if she hadn't stepped in, we still wouldn't have a budget. And I think other people don't even understand what's in the budget. But I want to thank her as a member of the public. And I know she took great concern in trying to keep our taxes as stable as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, you wanted to add something? Okay, all right.
Now we can vote.
Yes, there's another hand up, a familiar hand. Okay, since you've been up already, Ms. Geiger, please don't repeat yourself, but go ahead and... That, history predicts the future.
Mayor, that's disrespectful to the public, please.
Karen Geiger, 270 Alfred. I just have one comment to make at this point, and I'm only making it because the mayor seemed to be a bit confused about the litigation that I'm involved in. The litigation that I'm involved in is challenging the action of the planning board. Therefore, the funding to fight that litigation is part of the planning board budget. And I do want to comment that if the borough had originally not chosen to fight the appeal of Normandy, there would be no litigation, neither by Normandy nor by myself. So your comment is truly out of line and improper. Thank you.
Since it's a pending litigation, I won't comment any further, other than to say you are costing us money. Yes.
So we have
Maria Valari, 45 Jane Drive. I just want to make a comment about the budget. I don't want to go over numbers. I really feel that we are all overburdened by the continuous bombardment of the wonderful side we have there. I just want to say that I've been coming to meetings now for many, many years, and I have never seen what goes on at these meetings now. There's just a different level of meanness that is going on, and it really upsets me. When the Parisi administration was raising taxes left and right, this is about the budget. And no one on that side ever got up to question Mayor then Parisi the way they're attacking Mayor Kranjak, meeting after meeting after meeting. And I have to tell you something, it's really discerning to me to see such meanness coming out of these people, and they can't put their petty little stories aside to just do what's best for this town. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Have a motion to close the public portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have one more,
Catback?
1811?
So we should do the public hearing and then take the separate votes, correct?
Vote on
Mr.
the cap, you
Cardini?
want to adopt the cap?
Yep, we're going to adopt the catback.
Okay, so, we need to have a public hearing on ordinance 18-11, exceed budget and establish cap bank. Can I have a motion to open to the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody from the public wishing to be heard? Please raise your hand. Only on 1811. Seeing and hearing no one, we have a motion to close the public portion on 1811.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
All right, so are we voting on all of these, or how we...
You have to do separate votes,
Nope.
one at a time.
Yep, no, we can vote on the amendment,
Okay.
on the amended budget, as only because we're under state review and the state has signed off on the amendment.
So are we doing 18144, 1811, 18123 all together, or separately?
18144 will suffice.
Well, hold on a second. The ordinance has to have a second vote for adoption and passage. Okay. So...
Cap bank comes first or second, is the question?
Catbank first,
Cap bank first.
but the introduced and amended budget is one vote,
Okay, very good.
Cap bank first.
So do
under these circumstances,
Okay.
unusual.
your ordinance first, 1811.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve 1811, exceed budget and establish cap bank?
This is an ordinance.
The 1811.
It's an ordinance, sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry, who moved it?
William?
And who seconded?
Mark.
No.
Thank you. Councilpersons Aversa? E. Park?
We're doing introduction and amendment.
We're doing ordinance 1811, exceed budget and establish cap bank.
Yes.
O.
No.
McMorro?
Yes.
M. Park?
Yes.
Wu?
Yes.
Okay, it passes.
Okay, so that passed. And now are we doing 18123?
We're doing both.
123 and 144 is one
Same
vote,
thing.
Mayor.
Okay, so, can I have a motion, rather, to authorize the adoption of 18144, amendment to the introduced 2018 municipal budget, and a joint motion for 18123, adoption of the 2018 municipal budget.
Discussion, Mayor?
Yes.
I'm not in support of this amendment of the budget because, for the police overtime, I just don't believe that we have sufficient amount budgeted. And also the legal fees, you talk about Ms. Geiger's lawsuit. What about Ms. Eastwood's lawsuit? I mean, that lawsuit alone is going to cost the town a good amount of money in legal services. And I just don't feel that we have enough budgeted.
Can I go
So-
through your points one by one? So for police overtime, what is your basis for saying that we don't have enough money?
Because we have $175,000 budgeted. We are at 150. There's only $25,000 left. And it's not even July.
Right, but it's been frozen also. So are you basing it on...
But you know what? You don't have that power to freeze overtime.
I just did, months ago.
No, you don't have that.
I do. The labor lawyer told me
You
I
think
did.
you do, but you don't.
All right,
I
well-
disagree.
Well, okay, so we disagree, but,
So that's the reason that I cannot...
so you're basing the increase on historical poor management. Is
No,
that
I
why?
didn't say that. You're putting words in
Point of
my mouth.
order.
Hold on a second.
You're putting...
What are you basing it on, then? You're just basing it on history.
No, it's only June, end of June. The CFO is saying that we are up to 150. $25,000 is not enough. We could have emergency situations, okay?
We had one emergency 2 years ago, and we dealt with it in one day. So what...
Councilwoman,
Hold on a second. She has the floor. Wait.
discussion is
No,
the
hold on.
entire, but she asked for
No, but
discussion,
we're
not with you
discussing it.
only, with the rest of the council.
You can't predict emergency, Mayor. And
Well, we spent 150 without one single emergency, and so what are you predicting? I mean...
I can't predict a number.
Right,
but-
so we've tightened it up. We've frozen it because it was just runaway overtime, and that's my position, and it's been frozen, so the 175 is a very rational number for overtime. And I'm not willing to support a dollar more. In fact, I wanted to have it at 100,000. But unfortunately, the budget process took too long, and we've ended up spending more than I wanted. Councilwoman McMorro, yes, what do you want to say?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilwoman, what would you feel? I mean, listen, we're here to, pass a budget for the town. That's what all of our goals should be, sitting here tonight. So I appreciate you voicing your concerns. I do believe in listening to what, James did, with the numbers on the legal fees, that he did put enough in there. If you need further explanation on any of those line items, I would be more than happy to help you to understand that. But in hearing what the added numbers at that amendment from, I think it was a week ago now, right? I do believe on the legal, fees that we have enough. As for the police overtime, I'm sorry, I don't agree with the mayor. I think we should have a little bit more in the police overtime line. I would like to ask you, and he's entitled to his opinion, each one of us is entitled to, and he has his...
Well, the only difference is I'm basing mine on a rational reason, not any rational historical reason.
Okay, I'm asking the councilwoman, in an effort of attempting to, we need to pass this budget tonight, and to be reasonable, what would you feel is a proper added number, with also trying to keep the taxpayers in mind, helping the mayor achieve the goal of controlling overtime? What would you feel is a reasonable number to be, that would help you, have you vote yes to the budget tonight?
I think
Like
it's
this.
something that we need to have the police chief's input, because I can't tell you a number that I...
We've been at this for 7 months almost.
Yeah, at this, we need to pass a budget. I think that's something that, as a governing body, we can set the number and then,
This
have
number,
that as our goal.
right, so this number's been in writing for months now, and so you're raising it now. You don't really have a basis for it, and I accept that, but you don't even know what number you want. You want to defer to
I
the
just know
police
that
chief.
it's not sufficient.
Well, I mean, so what would a number
We're entitled
be?
to our own opinion.
Right, but your opinion has to be based by some kind of logical, rational, reasonable number.
So what is your opinion based on? I mean, you
Mine is based on I froze
that
it.
$45,000 enough for the rest of the year. I disagree.
I froze it.
What do you base your opinion on?
I based my opinion on an executive order that I issued
Which
freezing
executive
overtime.
order that I really don't think that you...
Well, you should support it, because you're here to support the town and the taxpayers.
Do you have a number, though, Councilwoman? I mean, trying to be respectful, I mean...
I would like to refer, maybe, we'll get some input from Councilman...
I have the same question. I just want to know what number would, Gloria, do you think would be sufficient? Same question as Council President McMorro. Second point is that, as Police Commissioner, I have, the mayor has put in controls. I am copied on his requests to the chief in terms of controlling the overtime on a week-by-week basis. So, I think the chief does come and communicate with the mayor and ask him for approvals as it pertains to any additionally incurred overtime. So, like I said, I think these controls have not been in place before, and they're in place now. But, like I said, for the sake of reasonableness, I think we should have a number proposed for us to pass the budget.
Here's a question for you, Councilman. I know Mayor had mentioned that there are reasonable means for the chief to, I don't know, manage overtime. But in my opinion, I'm a, business owner too, right? So if you don't have enough staff, right, how do you manage overtime? If you don't have enough people, on the ground, working, how do you manage, how do you expect the chief to manage the overtime without going, overtime?
Well, actually, he's been doing that for the last, I'm sorry, he's been doing that since I issued that.
Down like 4
Hold on, let me finish.
officers, right?
Since I've issued that order, he's had to do it. He's had no choice. And that's something that was kind of earth-shaking for him, and every morning there's an email from me saying, I'm just confirming that no overtime was requested or approved yesterday or today. And we go forward that way. And I know it's difficult if you're a manager to have to change, but you have the resources. We're not a 50,000 person town, okay? We have 24 active police officers. It requires some scheduling. It requires people to take sick days when they're sick and not when they're not sick. It just requires some self-respect, some discipline. We are the second highest paid police force in this state. We had the 5th highest paid police chief in this state. We can do better. The taxpayers have been getting ripped off in this town since I've moved in here, and now we finally figured out a way through Labor Council that empowered me to be able to stop this bleeding. We need to take this money, if we save it, and do other things for our children, for our seniors. We couldn't do a park last year. You were complaining about putting lights for, whatever it was, and here you are. You want to just have money fly out the door for overtime. We don't need overtime. Overtime is something for emergencies or for mandatory training where we can't avoid it. And respectfully, I love our police department. I love all law enforcement. I think they're great. But they're well paid. They're well paid. And if you're running a business, Gloria, you would be saying the same thing I'm saying right now, is that we cannot just keep burning cash.
Mayor, with all due respect, I'm not in the business of, safety for residents. We have that issue. We have all these things going on around the country. All we need is one incident, one emergency, $25,000 is going to go
Right, so
out the window.
now I see what you're doing. Now you're parroting the chief. Safety is a very major concern of mine, and we have not gone away from one bit of safety. We are very actively looking at this town, patrolling this town, making sure it's safe. But the budget assumes you could do all that without overtime. You don't need overtime to provide a safe environment for your citizens.
I don't understand how you would, though. You keep saying the same thing over and over without giving, real,
I just told you how we did it. And we've been doing it for 2 months. You just haven't realized
You
it.
expect the officers to work for free?
They're not working for free.
If they're...
We're working for free up here. Well, we should be anyway. The officers are not working for free.
They're already down 4 people.
That doesn't matter. We have enough officers to properly patrol this town. We have not stopped patrolling it just as we've historically patrolled it. We're just doing it in a much smarter way. And it's funny because you didn't even realize I issued that order, right?
I've been reading the emails.
And you haven't seen...
Back and forth.
Right, and you have not seen any dip in safety. You haven't seen any dip in safety, because if you did, you would have been calling me every morning, or Jamie.
Councilwoman, I just wanted to ask you a procedural thing. When you asked for discussion, you indicated that you had a problem with the amendment. Do you want us to separate the 2 resolutions out and take a separate vote?
No, not the amendment. It was referring to the amendment of the dollar figures in the amendment.
Okay, so it's the budget too. You have a problem with both the
Because there
amendment
was $50,000 more in the overtime, that you took that money and you put it in excess liability.
So then we should continue.
So is there, excuse me, Councilman O, in an effort of coming to a mutual agreement, as I said, there are many items that we are trying to achieve in this budget. One of the things I know that Jamie was looking at, that you brought up, is even the bus for the senior citizens. We need to pass the budget to be able to do all these great things.
Well, that's free, so...
Well, I'm just saying, but we're in, obviously, we see our adversary is sitting in the back there from Lady Padovano. We have a large amount that's in here for COA litigation, which is at the forefront of everyone's mind, and we need to pass our budget. What would be reasonable for you if Councilman Wu, and I'm going to defer to him on whatever, that you would be able to support this budget if there was any increase?
Why are you guys begging to give her more money? I don't understand that.
At times, you need to be reasonable because we need to pass the budget.
We have a very reasonable budget.
Councilwoman O is saying that she has some reservations about certain items, and we need to pass the budget. I'm asking her opinion, and I'm asking her to talk to Councilman Wu.
But she has no number, and you're going to throw a number at her.
I'm not throwing anything, Mayor. I'm attempting to be reasonable and work
We are
together.
reasonable. The budget itself is reasonable. We had our professionals prepare
I'm attempting to work together, Mayor.
We had our professionals prepare it.
Well, it sounds like, Gloria, you mentioned there's multiple line items, right? So right now, it's not just one issue, so we need to understand what the suggestions are.
I mean, you know what? You guys could pass the budget if you want to. You don't need my vote. Just pass it. It would be on you to pass this budget.
Well,
Well, it's not funny, because you're raising an issue, and you're not...
I mean, I'm
You're throwing
making comments about the budget, and,
No,
You're just flamethrowing, but you're not solving problems. So be part of the solution, Gloria.
Councilman O, please, Mario.
Councilwoman O, please be part of the solution and not the problem.
what would be...
And that would require you to think about the problem and the solution. Quite frankly, I don't think there is a problem, because there's an executive order in place that stops overtime. So I think anything over 175 is really a travesty to the taxpayers here.
Councilwoman? What number?
Okay,
I'm looking for a solution.
Okay, my suggestion is, actually realistic number is almost $25,000, just the leftover. My suggestion is about the increase, about 30,000, maybe reasonable, a little bit bump to here. I know the mayor going to execute all the normal, overtime. We don't need it, but in case any emergency, maybe $30,000 for the buffer. I suggest about what do you think of it? Just in case.
Just the fact point for everybody, the council and also in the audience, for a 2-week period in June, from June 6th through June 20th, the absentee rate in the police department was 5.2%. The absentee rate for Borough Hall employees was under 1%. So I was looking at this, I was like, a lot of sick days here, and I asked Jamie, I said, we got a public health problem here in this, police department. We better get the health department involved, because this is just not right, that somebody can't show up to work, and do this, right? So I told Jamie, I said, my father's been working over 60 years. I think a guy's taken 3 days off for illness. What are we doing here, people? We, as a council, respect your taxpayers and don't give more overtime where it's not deserved. If there's an emergency, yes, we will find the money. Believe me, even if it's not in the budget, we'll find it. But this is bizarre. She says she doesn't know what number she wants. She just wants a higher number because she's parroting something somebody else told her. And then you guys want to give her more money. It makes no sense. This is not how you run a business or a town.
I'm going to repeat myself, Mayor. We need to pass this budget, and we need to come to an amicable solution in passing this budget, because I will tell all of you, and I'm the only person that did work on this with Jamie, because, with all due respect, Councilman Aversa and Councilwoman O, you were busy, you did not want to take on the responsibility, and I had no choice but to step up to the plate. I helped with Jamie on all matters other than police, actually, and William took over that portion. I'm asking you to please find a middle ground of what is acceptable to you. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you what all the reality is. If you're going to vote no, I'm abstaining. The budget's going to fail. And what's going to happen is, it's going to go down to the state, and the state is going to set this budget, and it will be on your shoulders, because I'm asking you to work together. I've asked you 4 times. I'm asking you for your time, and I'm asking you, please, to work so we can pass this budget. We vote up here. I mean, I can't ask in any more of a reasonable way. Just tell me what your feelings are, and let's work together. We need to pass this for the town, because the state will set the budget if you vote no. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. We need numbers.
You can't abstain, Carol. We went through this last year.
I'm agreeing we can't have the state, so let's just work together up here. We want to work with you.
If I can add,
What do you-
if anybody, if I may add, I came here on May 8th of this year, and I thank Councilwoman McMorro, because she did work with me day and night on this budget, and it's imperative you pass the budget, and I'm going to tell you why. I've met with Councilman Aversa, I met with Councilwoman O, I met with Councilwoman Park, I met with Wu, and I spoke to Mr. Park here, Councilman Park. If you extend this any further, you're under review from the...
Officer Lee, we need to keep a door open so that...
You're under review from the state, and the state's not going to look very kindly on the borough of Englewood Cliffs. It's that simple and that basic, and any budgets going forward, even into the next year, it's just going to become more difficult. I've done everything I've been asked to do to get this budget passed. I've increased the line items I was asked to increase. I met with Chris in June, beginning of June, and there was concerns about some line items being over budget. And the last thing I wanted to do was send a budget down to the state that was over budget, because that's not proper fiscal management. I don't think you really want to extend this any further. That's my opinion. I wouldn't. The budget is the budget right now, the way it is, and we're going to have to work around it, but we're going to do it together. I mean, I've worked with every council member up there, and I don't mind doing it again. But let's at least get this budget passed, get it under our hats, and move forward.
Thank you. Well said.
Appreciate your help on this, really.
Okay. So
Great
that's
effort. I know you've been
why I
trying to-
suggest about maybe middle of the number, maybe if we add on $30,000 more, maybe we have a 25,000 total, maybe $55,000.
Do you have an opinion,
That's,
James?
Well,
What do
here's
you-
my opinion. If you amend it, what is going to happen next? We're under state review, number one. Are they going to accept our amendment down at the state? I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, the amendments should have been, and I've met with everybody. We had the meeting on June 13th, I think it was, and nobody made comments. That was the time to make the comments for the amendments. Now, tonight's the adoption, here's the adoption, here we are on the adoption, and now the comments are being made, and this is no disrespect to anybody. The fact is that we had the amendment budget, hearing, and nothing was said then.
Well, that's because when they meet with you, there's not a public audience to entertain, and when they come up here, right before the budget, all things Englewood Cliffs being budget, things happen at the last minute, okay? So, you've had your moment of entertainment, let's get this budget done, folks. It's a good budget.
And just real quick, my point is this has nothing to do with anybody. I work for the borough of Englewood Cliffs, I work for all of you. The fact of the matter is, the responsible thing is to pass the budget. It's that simple. And, you know, I made a phone call down at the state, and I spoke to a woman at DLGS, and they know who Englewood Cliffs is. And really, that's not something you want to have, on your hat. You just don't want to have that. So, I've asked the council members, all council members, I don't care what side you're on, I'm not here for the political battles. It's not what I'm here for. I'm here to do what's right for the borough of Englewood Cliffs. And the right thing to do for Englewood Cliffs right now is to move forward, pass this budget, and let's get on to the next year if we have to.
Before we call the vote, can we work together on this? Councilman Aversa?
Just call the vote, don't, you not ask for
Okay.
how long. I talked to James, I
Okay.
gave my opinions, just make the vote, do whatever you want. What's the difference? Just make the vote.
God, you guys beat a dead horse over and over. When you talk about making a show, Mario, really, come on.
Well, Ed, last week when we introduced the budget, we were looking for you to be here, and we were looking to find you, and we couldn't. You were absent, and you were unexcused, so you missed a lot of that discussion, and I'm sorry you did, because it was very productive. We're here now. We need a budget. We've been elected to do a budget for the town, and the citizens are depending on us to do that. So, have a motion to adopt the budget.
So moved.
Second.
Can I have a roll call?
Just so that I'm clear, is this on 144?
And 123.
Both together.
Yeah, well, when I had a motion, it was 144 and 123 together.
Okay, 123. I'm sorry, who moved it? Councilman Park?
No, me.
And second?
I did.
Thank you. So this is for the two resolutions. Councilperson Traversa? E. Park?
Before my vote, you want to talk about, unforeseen expenses. I just got a letter from the borough attorney that is representing the borough on my email. And today is June 26th, and I still don't have the
Councilman
email.
Park, we're voting.
And, yeah, so, you know what, it's already June, end of June, and I don't have my emails, Mayor. So how can you say that's enough in the litigation, number one? Number two, you cannot unilaterally make policies in the borough form of government, and the fact that Mark Ruderman...
I'm sorry, Councilman Park, we cannot understand you because you're yelling at us, so maybe speak a little slower, a little clearer. We want to hear what you have to say.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm yelling because I thought you'd hear me better. Alright, so this is what I'm saying. The litigation budget is too small. I just got a letter from Friends and whoever the borough attorney is, and it seems that I still don't have the emails that I requested, that there's an order for, number one, and it's at the end of June.
So this is budget discussion, not a litigation discussion?
Yes, but that is part of the litigation budget. Secondly, you cannot unilaterally make a decision to cut overtime to the police. You keep talking about Mark Ruderman giving you some kind of legal opinion, yet that was never shared with any one of us on council, again, with the lack of transparency. So maybe if you gave me those documents that you're talking about, then I would support this budget.
Now we're going all over the place.
There has been no transparency, Marion, none whatsoever. So no, I'm going to vote no.
Okay, that's your vote.
That's your vote, that's fine.
No. O.
No.
McMorro?
I'm going to abstain.
You can't abstain.
You can't abstain. We went through this last year when you guys berated me.
No. Okay. Okay. I'll vote yes, it's going to fail anyway.
And Park?
Yes.
Wu?
Yes.
And for the record, I would have voted yes if I
Can't
could
break
vote.
the tie on that. I have a point of
You
order.
broke the tie last year.
He's not on a final
What?
adoption.
Last year.
Well, you were elected to do a job, and you failed.
I have a point of order for the professionals. I have a point of...
He broke the tie last year.
No, it was different. It was on
No, it wasn't.
It was on the introduction.
No.
That was not the reason why the tie was broken. The tie was broken because there was an abstention. Hold on, I'm speaking. Last year, the abstention was deemed an affirmative vote on the introduction. That's the way it worked.
I understand that. But are you telling me at the adoption last year?
If you were under the impression that I could break this tie, you were wrong. So, do you want to have a revote?
I have a question.
No.
Is it worth revoting? Gloria?
I have a question for the...
Councilman Aversa?
I'm good.
You're good? All right, good. You failed the taxpayers, everybody.
A point of order. Point of order. I've got, hold on. Yes, just a moment. Well, last
I can
time...
break the tie?
Gee, thanks a lot, Borough Attorney.
I can break the tie?
Yes, you can.
Cool.
I vote yes, we have a budget.
Yeah, I mean, come on. You need the auditor to tell the borough attorney that he could break the tie.
Oh,
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the borough attorney that we have.
Serious?
Oh, boy.
Serious?
Oh, boy. Seriously, Anne Marie.
I have a, no, not yet.
Seriously, you need the auditor to do the borough attorney's job.
Look at how animated you become.
No, that's not an
I have a
issue.
point, I have a...
The issue is what occurred last year as...
Anne Marie, you could save
Stop
your...
interrupting this.
Okay, whatever.
I'm gonna take a 5-minute recess.
Excuse me, Mayor. No, point of order.
Point of order?
I had a point of order.
Just before you do that, the budget passed 4-3, okay? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Aversa, Councilwoman O, Councilwoman Park. You have a fiduciary duty, even if you don't disagree with people on the council, to not be the problem, but be the solution. There are endless emails and phone calls that were made to the three of you for your input and for your solutions. But you never came up with one. Instead, all you did was cite problems. And it's great to bring up what you have issues on, but you need to find solutions to that. Gloria, you're all over the place saying that you want to run for mayor next year. Mayors are leaders. And if you're looking to be a leader, you need to step up to the plate, because I can't even get you to respond to an email on a budget or take the responsibility. You're going to allow me to finish. I have the floor.
After you finish, I'll let you
And then you may.
Okay, good.
Okay? You have not given one piece of productive advice. And I sat up here and asked you, what could we do? How can we work together? James reached out to you over and over and over, and you just kept saying no.
No, I did not
Excuse me.
say no.
You did not give
You could
one...
ask James. I had a meeting with James. I did tell him that the legal services was not sufficient.
That, and I stated to you, let me show you how it is, given the input from the professionals. I asked you for solutions. Did you feel we should put 50,000 more in this line, 100 in there? Just what are you thinking? What is your thought? I would like to hear your thought. But to just say no is irresponsible. And for you and Councilman Aversa and Councilwoman Park to say no to a budget when we are fighting, okay, all these litigations on this, for this town, and knowing how important the affordable housing situation is to the residents, shame on you, they're gonna
You know
all
what?
know, excuse me, they're going to
Shame on you for
all
suing the
know on
town
how
again.
you let every resident
I don't
down
think you heard,
in this
Councilwoman
town.
Park.
You let every resident down in this
Did you
town
hear
for not
Councilwoman
trying
Park?
to do
Shame on you
your job.
for suing the town.
Excuse me, I'm not gonna
Okay?
comment.
That's more money we... Yeah, and you stop pointing your pen and...
Okay, one at a time.
And at each meeting,
One at a
at every meeting, this is what you do.
No, I don't.
Okay? You degrade us, you talk down us,
I'm ashamed
okay?
to sit up
You have
here.
your chance.
Shame on you. You know what? Maybe there's a reason that you're not running again, Carol.
Hold on.
There
Let
are
her finish.
reasons.
Let her finish.
There are many reasons why I'm
Yeah,
not...
I'd like to hear
I
those
promise you,
reasons.
you will have your chance.
You will...
But you will
Yeah.
stop talking to us like this at every meeting, because I'm not gonna take it, okay?
May I finish?
All right, let's go.
Okay.
Are you finished?
No, I wasn't
All right,
finished
finish
yet.
up.
Every resident will know how you let them down by not giving solutions and just being an obstructionist. All three of you. Obstructionists. Every resident is going to know how you let them down.
make rules as it comes
I don't make any rules.
Okay, all
then
right,
there's more
you're
lawsuits.
finished, you have to stop, you have to stop. Go ahead,
I'm
Councilwoman,
done.
oh, have your piece.
You know what, Carol? Every resident will know that, you and this mayor, tried to appoint me to chair the finance committee, so you could throw me under the bus. Because you knew this was coming.
No.
With all these litigations and, the expenses, right? You knew this was coming. You knew the taxes were going up, and you needed to blame on
I'm
someone.
not blaming anybody. I asked to work together with you.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not
So,
blaming anyone.
actually, for me, I'll just mention this, Councilwoman Park, you voted yes to introduce the budget, but you voted no tonight. So I think more than anyone else on that side, you let people down even more, because,
Well, no, I already told you why I voted no.
well,
Because, again,
you voted yes last week.
unilaterally make policy and not tell people about it, and if there's a legal opinion from Mark Uniman, you should be sending that to all of us.
All right, well, you know what, if you're in person, I'm sure it would sound just as loud, but we'd understand you. But unfortunately, you're on a phone call, I don't know where you are, the meeting is here, you're not here, your voice is just being muffled. But anyway, you voted yes last week, and you voted no today. So what's the logic of that? When I see you next time, you can explain that. Just like Mr.
You know what, then maybe you should share and be transparent and show us Mark Uniman's legal opinion as to why it's okay for you unilaterally, under borough form of government, it's okay for you to set policy without taking a vote with the rest of the council.
Well, someone has to be in
Okay.
charge. You-
And
you-
that's
So
what
you're
talking about.
opposed, you're opposed to reducing expenses for this town, is basically what you're saying. Okay?
What are you talking about? This is why, again, like I said, I got a letter from Friend and whoever the attorney is handling for the borough this time around with the third lawyer that you got this time to represent the borough. Again, you haven't given me anything, and we're back in court again, right?
That's a litigation that you started, and
That's right, because you're not being transparent.
you have everything you need. You have everything you need. Yes, Councilman Aversa. I'm still actually waiting for you to tell me where you were last week, but go ahead.
Actually, it's,
So a week before, you wanted to take me in the back room and punch me out. Last week, you didn't show up. What is it now?
I don't know where you get that from, but it's...
It's on tape.
It's personal, and it's none of your business.
Well, we were looking for you. We had a scheduled
I'm
meeting.
sure you missed me very much.
We had a scheduled meeting.
I'm sure your heart was fluttering for me. So
Okay.
Very nice of you. I appreciate it very much.
My heart flutters often,
May I
but not for
make
you.
a constructive suggestion instead of all your little bickering? So, we're all entitled to our opinions here. I did voice my opinion, and I gave solutions to what I thought were good recommendations for the budget. I didn't cry like a baby because you didn't like them or no one wanted to implement them. That's your business. That's
Jamie, did you
okay.
get solutions?
So who did you tell your solutions to?
I can't hear,
So-
Did you receive solutions from Councilman Aversa, to yes or no?
Well, yeah, and the solutions were, I increased the, budget for legal, and that was one of the concerns in the overtime.
We did that.
I did that.
James, the solutions were personnel. If you recall.
Right, but I said we couldn't do that
I understand.
until next year.
You wanted to fire somebody that's sick? Is that-
No, it was nothing, no, had nothing to do with that. Had nothing to
So
do with
what was your solution, Councilman Aversa? Share it.
Who did you want to fire?
So it's not a solution unless you share it.
It's not to share with you, right?
Who did you
It's not a solution.
fire?
No, we're not.
No,
We're not going to talk about
Well,
personnel.
here you are saying that you had a solution, but you don't have a solution. It's just more gobbledygook. Go ahead.
Firing somebody is not...
You are so childish, it's ridiculous. All I'm saying-
Well, the last time I saw you, you wanted to go to the back room.
All I'm saying is we're all entitled to our opinion. You don't have to like it.
We don't know what your opinion is.
It's, oh, shit.
We don't know what your opinion is.
Look, you want me to get your tissues so you can...
You don't articulate, articulate your opinion.
I don't need to.
You don't need to, right? What about to the taxpayers? What about to the residents? Articulate your opinion, Councilman Aversa.
Was once again that we should just move on. The budget passed. I don't like it. I'm not happy with it, and that's okay. So what
It's
is the
not
problem?
okay, because you gave no solution on what to do.
You're pretending that you gave a solution. You didn't give a solution. You didn't give a solution. But when my predecessor raised everyone's taxes by 20%, you were fine. You voted for that.
Councilman Wu,
Yeah, what's the question?
you understand my point now, right? Thank you. I'm behaving, right?
I actually don't.
Thank you.
Marcia, you clarify.
I would like to know for the record what his recommendations were.
I told you what they were.
No, I didn't hear you.
I said,
What are
we
they?
talked about legal fees, but...
And you put the money in, that was all you told me.
No, legal, talked about overtime, the PD, but we also talked about...
Personnel.
Yeah, but it wasn't firing anybody like that, it was adding. And at the time, I said you couldn't add because the budget, at the stage...
So he
the budget
wanted
was
to
in.
add more personnel.
Just for the, to offset overtime for the police, that's all. That's all it was.
Right, why manage properly, but instead of managing properly, hold on, instead of managing properly, let's just hire more people and spend more money.
But what he was asking me was, and I'm not, in the conversation that we had...
James, you don't have to answer them.
Right, no, I don't mind answering.
I asked him a question.
The question was the fact that...
But he is.
That was a mean, no, please.
All right, let's do this. Let's attack an issue, but not a person, okay?
All right, so, yeah.
Councilman Aversa, it's very difficult for you to do that, but focus on the issue. No, I want you to attack issues, not people.
Oh, my
Oh,
God.
really, Mayor? You're gonna say that sitting up here after what you did last meeting?
All right. Basically, and this is it, and I'll end it here. Basically, the discussion was on ways to manage overtime. That's what it was. And one of the ways possibly could be to hire another police officer. That was it. I said, and where we are now, we're too far along in the budget to do such.
Okay.
You have to look at that for next year.
Okay.
And that was it. It was nothing, and it was an
But that's not a reason
amicable,
to-
conversation.
To vote no.
So that was a reason for him to vote no?
Well, that's his vote is his vote.
All right,
I
well,
was
that's
voting yes.
a travesty of fiduciary duty. All right, let's go into closed session. Kevin,
You have another ordinance.
what is that one? All right, ordinance
Our
2018,
ordinance on,
all right, ordinance,
mayor can't break the tie.
ordinance 2018-12, public hearing. Madam Clerk, would you please read that into the record?
Bond ordinance to authorize the making of various public improvements and the acquisition of new additional replacement equipment and machinery and new information technology equipment in, by, and for the Borough of Englewood Cliffs in the County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $1,110,000 to pay the cost thereof, to appropriate to a state grant, to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds. We need to open to the public. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone from the public who wishes to speak just on ordinance 2018-12, please raise your hand. Yes.
Aaron Geiger, 270 Alfred. I asked the question that I asked before. What is the money going for? What is the equipment that's being purchased for, information technology that's so urgent? What is $1 million worth of capital expenditure being spent on?
Okay, so nobody said it was urgent, but I would ask Mr. Barbiero to explain it.
Can you explain how you total $1 million, $1,000,000.1?
I just asked him to do that for you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Before you wouldn't answer, when you said it was litigation.
Okay, you have, not the participant, excuse me. The Englewood Cliffs lockers, the police lockers, are in that ordinance. If you read the ordinance, it breaks out,
You have a schedule of...
schedule of
Right there.
everything.
Purposes and amounts. There's 4 pages of a schedule attached.
Police lockers were last year.
It's in your handout, ma'am.
I understand.
Thank you.
Police lockers were
But
last
we're not going to spend 10 minutes on that.
I think, I don't know if that's true, but I think it was the cameras that were last year.
It's additional money.
So additional money for the
I
lockers.
mean, there's about 10 or 15 different
Yeah,
items.
it's all broken down.
In the interest of full disclosure and transparency and to the public, it's in the attachment that was handed out tonight. Ms. Geiger has that as well. If you want to go take a look at it, and if we're still in open session, you could raise your hand and I'll call on you again. Is there anybody
This
else?
attachment totals $1,000,001?
And then a big chunk of it is also roads are in here.
Yeah, 889,000 of roads improvements,
So the total, if I were to add all of these up, it's total...
it should be $1,110,000. Thank you.
Just see, there's two different road programs in here.
Right.
One is for almost 400,000 and one is for over 400,000. They're both in this bond.
Broken down in there.
It's broken down.
And then that too, when you see that road, Chris mentioned it before, there's a grant that will be mentioned in there from the DOT for $212,000 as well.
So it's the half the cost of one.
Right, so.
All right.
And given the extent of the tax increase that residents will have to bear, can you tell me how much our taxes will go up for this capital program?
We only got to put 5% down, so.
$50.
Well, it's 5% down now, but we pay later. It isn't 5% forever.
Well, here's the thing.
No, we understand that.
If I can explain it, here's the thing with bonding, and I know a lot of people don't like bonding because you see the debt, but the thing with bonding is that you have these long-term projects like road improvements, okay? So say you live in town today, and you pay for it in this year's budget and operating, everybody that moves in the next year that wasn't here to pay for that bond, they get to enjoy all the improvements of what the council did that year, and that it would affect your budget immensely if you paid as you go. That's why the bonding is a tool that should be used, especially in projects like this, because they are long-term projects.
Or perhaps the later project to a point where we've had more money available and we're not hurting the residents with this.
So you don't want improvements?
It's not for me to say, it's for you to say.
You don't want improvements? Okay.
I'm saying that you look at
Actually, I want improvements for the residents. I want improvements for all the residents, and if you don't, that's okay, but we do. All right, anybody else? Okay, can I have a motion to close the public hearing? All in favor? Aye. All right, can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2018-12?
So moved.
Second.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilperson Zaversa?
Yes.
E. Park?
Yes.
O.
Yes.
McMorro?
Yes.
M. Park?
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
It passes, Mayor.
Thank you.
Point of order, Mayor, that just shows that what they did was political, because that bond ordinance is part of the budget. So they would never vote no to improve roads. They just want the political statement to say that they voted against raising taxes. But they voted against this town defending anything.
That's an ignorant statement.
No, it's not ignorant at all. It shows how ignorant you
I
are.
like spending $50 on taxes to fix the road, that's worth it.
No problem.
Well, I kind of see a pattern here over the last 2 years I've been here as mayor, is that it's no, 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 and once in a while we get a yes. So we got a yes this time. Let's do this. We need to go into closed session. We're going to be a while for the public. You're welcome to stay, but when we come back, we're just going to be adjourning. So if you choose to leave, it's a good time as well, but you're welcome to stay.
I'm just
I just need a
also,
motion, though. to-
hold on. I just want to state for the record that this is a special meeting, and we cannot add anything to the agenda that was not publicly advertised last week. There will be no action taken when the mayor and council come back out, except to reopen and then adjourn.
Okay,
That's the only action.
before council leaves, I need a vote to go into closed. I need a motion first. All in favor? Okay, then I need the clerk to read into the record the appropriate language for going into closed session.
18-145, whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Englewood Cliffs has deemed it necessary to go into closed session to discuss certain confidential matters, and whereas the minutes of the closed session will remain confidential as permitted under the Open Public Meetings Act, or shall be released when there is no further need for confidentiality as authorized by the borough attorney. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council of the Borough of Englewood Cliffs will go into closed session for the following matters as permitted under Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-12, pending and anticipated litigation regarding Borough of Englewood Cliffs, docket number BERL 6119-15, 800 Sylvan Avenue LLC versus Borough of Englewood Cliffs, docket number BERL 69-18, 800 Sylvan Avenue LLC versus Planning Board, docket number BERL 908817. Number 4, Englewood Cliffs PBA Local 45 versus Borough, docket BERL 4240-18. And the subject, on personnel, will be discussing health benefits.
That's only a general discussion, not about any particular employee.
Okay? Okay. Go ahead.
Can I have a motion to come out of closed session?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone.